the title of my presentation actually is like Tidal Energy in Indonesia, Opportunities and Challenges. It's like my name is Ahmad Firdaus. Basically, I'm a faculty member in Ocean Engineering program in ITD. So this paper, the idea of this paper is really to bring the information for all turbine developers. Because we have this kind of experiences because so many turbine developers approach us and try to deploy the turbine, but they have no ideas about how the regulations work in Indonesia, how the policies of the government works in Indonesia. Okay, this is the outline of my presentations. I divided into five sections. The first one is about the Indonesian government approach. So this is kind of the debate that we have back home and with the foreign investor and everything regarding the government willingness to shift our energy sources to the grid and renewables. And the second one is about the critical policy that need to be understood by turbine developers. The second one the third one I'm going to show the opportunities and challenges on investing especially in tidal energy in Indonesia. And the fourth one, we're going to have the case study in Larantuka, which is this one is one of the prime location in Indonesia. So I did some analysis and numerical simulations using advanced circulation models, and then the last part will be the conclusions. So this is a little bit of Indonesia. It's down the road from here. It's not that far. So, but as you might also know, that Indonesia is one of the biggest archipelagic country in the world, which we have 17,000 islands, which 70% of our territory is oceans. We are the fourth largest populations globally, and also we are one of the strongest economic in Southeast Asia. So, this is the first part. So as you see here, so this is where all the debate began. So for example, in the beginning, we see that in 2013, the government issues presidential regulations showing the prediction and projections of our energy mix in the future. For example, we set up the target on 2025, which is not too long from now, to get the 23% of renewables from our energy mix. But if you look at the 2022 data there, we only get only 14% of the renewables. It's far away from the target. While we already ratified all the protocol, Kyoto protocols, Paris Agreement, and the last one is the Glasgow COP, the last European Glasgow. I mean, and that's the question. While this kind of administrations, this current administration, I mean, took control, they launched a massive project, which is providing 35 gigawatt electricity to the people. And if you look in detail for those projects, predominantly is a coal-fired power plant. So the question is raised amongst us is like, is it government really serious to shift our energy source to renewables? That's the main question. But before that, before we can conclude anything, let's see the fact of Indonesian situation at the time. So is this the 2030? So this is the electrification ratio of Indonesia in 2014. As you see here, so many red dots here. Red dots means I say the electrification ratio is only around 70% or below 80%, which means so many people doesn't have any access to electricity. In total, nationally, our electrification ratio at the time is only 88%, which means if we calculate that into the number of the populations is around 35%. A million people doesn't have any access to the modern form of energy. So this is the situation in Indonesia. And as we also aware that access to electricity sometimes is also reflect the development index in certain area. As you see here, this one is I took it from NOAA website for 1 year exposure. So I put it all the data, whole have 3 nights of the night light maps from the NOAA. The brighter as you see here, the brighter the color there, that means the electricity is reliable. Which means in some area maybe they have electricity, but sometimes they have to turn it off in certain nights. And you can see that there's a disparity between the eastern part of Indonesia, for example, the Papua side, the Kalimantan side, Kalimantan is Borneo, to Java. Java is much brighter. We can see the electricity access also determine the inequality in Indonesia. And then if we look at so this is related to the project that was launched in the beginning of the current administration. As you see here, in 2019, we get better electrification ratio. So as you see here, the previous one, we have so many reds in the number of electrification ratio. Now, I use the same parameters here, and we only have 3 reds one here. So it's increased from 88% to almost 97%. I mean, to 97%. It's huge leaps actually during that time. And this is the last one. The last one I retrieved is the data from the government, from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. You can see that's only one location that's below 90% of electrification ratio, in which this is the case that we're going to discuss in these early presentations. So these facts show, is the hesitance commitment actually based on the reality. Indonesia still need to equalize their electricity access to all the people. So this is the fact that we have to accept at the moment. So and then this is what maybe this gives the opportunity to turbine developer, to any renewable energy business sector, to see that Indonesia still have great opportunity. The reason why we still seems relies on the coal-fired power plant last few years is because we need to give access to all the people in Indonesia. But we believe after this happens, we can push the Indonesian government to shift all their energy sources to green and renewable. And this one is, I put this one on my article because this one is we always have to explain this one again and again regarding to whenever any turbine developers, any foreign investor reach us, and then we have to explain this one. Okay, previously Indonesia has been monopolized by a state-owned company. It's called PLN. So all the energy provision in Indonesia is provided by PLN. But under the new law, but I say new, but it's already 2007. This has been a while actually. So the private sector can enter business in Indonesia in terms of the energy provisions, transmission, and everything, and generations. There are 3 paths that you can pursue. So the first one, on an operational area or business area. We call it in Bahasa, according to the law, is the wilayah usaha. We say we lose. And then the second one is PPA contract, which is the common one in Indonesia at the moment. And the second one is joint utilization of the power networks or power wheeling. So we can have these three schemes. But based on our experiences, so this is the note that we put in these 3 paths. So there are risks, there are challenges. We still have that. But in terms of our best experiences at the moment is using the scheme number 2. We see that the scheme number 3 is promising. However, there is no businesses until now use this opportunity. We don't know why. It seems like because all the power networks still owned by PLN, so it's hard to make a deal with the PLN. And then the second one, the most important regulation that must be known by any private sector that want to enter Indonesia is in Indonesia we have what we call it as ceiling price. So you can negotiate, but we have the ceiling price. Your price cannot higher than this one. by knowing every ceiling price, it's different in every part of the country. So for example, it's spread from 20 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour to 6 cents per kilowatt hour. If you go to Java, you need to consider to sell your electricity below 6 cents. That's very low. Well, I put that in that graph. What is the lowest LCOE for tidal energy, for example, based on the many publications saying that 11 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour, the highest one, the highest margins, the highest price that usually proposed is around 21 cents per kilowatt hour. There are some areas still in range of the LCOE, but in certain area, unfortunately, it's not. So we have, even though the new regulation said the ceiling price can be neglected for certain for a discretion, so the government can issue a discretion letter for avoiding the ceiling price in every region, but you need to have a negotiation with the government and showing that why your ceiling price should not be applied in your case. And one thing is like ceiling price is move up and down. It's depend on the oil price and coal price. So I see that even the government didn't say that every year, usually annually they issues the ceiling price for all region in Indonesia, and then but it's not certainly annual issue. But at the moment we're still waiting because the coal and oil prices rise up, but the government doesn't issue any new regulation regarding the ceiling price. And this is regarding the opportunity. So Indonesia at the moment have what they call as the dieselization program, since predominantly in many parts of the country we still use diesel power. So we use the small, especially in small systems because we are so many islands here, and then the PLN government through PLN plan to retire all those power plants. So usually all the turbine designer, all turbine developers who want to enter the business, it's better for them to look at the location of the diesel power plant and in that area, whether it's in the proximity or not, or so they can argue to the government, okay, you can retire this diesel power, and we will provide the replacement for that. Okay. And so as I mentioned before, this one is this the potential location that has been acknowledged by government. So we have plenty of location, but based on my experience, more than this one. I can tell with the same number that is not included in this map actually. So we have more than only 17 location. But regarding this one, this is all of the diesel power. The potential locations for the tidal energy is in the proximity to the diesel power that planned to be retired by the government. Okay, now we talk about the case study. The case study is Larantuka. Larantuka Strait is actually one of the prime locations in Indonesia. It's similar to Penland Firth in the UK. So this is one of the current the strait that can have 4 to 5 meters per second in peak the velocity. But the strait is very narrow, only around 1 kilometer wide, 800 to 1 kilometer wide. It depends on which locations. And in this case, I put this resources assessment method like this. We use the Holsby method. It's actually Holsby and Whelan method. So this is from my supervisor in Oxford. So we did the shallow water equations. The shallow water equation we incorporate with the turbine model like this. We take into account the surface deformations. We put the blockage ratio. I modified the equation a little bit in order to get the realistic turbine can be applied in certain locations. And then we also applied the cap capacity for the turbine. So because the turbine have the capping capacity, for example, they only install 1.5 megawatt turbine capacity in certain area. So in this case, in this simulation, we use the 3 turbine with the 1.5 megawatt. But as you see, there's all the validations of the models of the shell water equation were already been done in the previous publications. You may reach me if you're interested to see the validation, but I'll not include the validations in this publication, in these presentations. So this is the result. So for example, this one is just based on the power density. So just calculate the flow directly and then use the undisturbed kinetic flux like that. And then if in your right hand side picture, you can see that the red one is actually when we put the turbine capacity into the energy calculations. So you can see that this is capped on the 4.5 because we have 3 turbines in 1.5 megawatt. So this is 4.5 in total. So it's applied like that. The black one is just if you don't put any capping strategy in the equations. So I use that equation in the model. So it's just already embedded in the shell water equation, and then everything will be interacted. So when you put the turbine, when you put resistance to the flow will change and everything. You can see that in my previous publication, I can show you that the flow will be diverted to the other island. It's very interesting one. And correlate to the problem that we discussed before, this is the dilemma. This is the real dilemma. I helped some of turbine developers that want to enter the business in Indonesia and saying that, okay, because the Larantuka is not connected, the grid there is isolated to the main grid in the Flores Island. So that the Flores Island, as I mentioned before, we have around 300,000 population there, in which means we can have more than 30 megawatt turbine installed if for the entire island. How unfortunately the city of Larantuka is still disconnected to the main grid of the Flores Islands. Okay, that's the situation. So they only have demand for the maximum only 6 megawatt. They don't have demand more than that. As you see here, the consumption, electricity consumption, this one is just not like typical in the UK or in the US, where you have higher peak demand on the winter time and low demand on the summertime. This one is similar the whole year. And the maximum is only on the night time. It's 6 megawatt. If you aim for the average power or baseline of the power, as here, only 4.5 megawatt. If I put the turbine for 0.5 megawatt, we have to consider how we can fill the gap between it. So you can see this one, this is from the peak spring tide, and the other one is from the neap tide. So the black one, the dash black one graph in your left hand side is like that is for the neap tide. And as I said before, because this one is isolated grid, the price is still good, still 19 cents per US dollar per kilowatt hour, and which is still in the range of the LCOE of tidal energy. Okay. The other problem, okay, but the problem is we only can install around 4.5 megawatt to 6 megawatt maximum to provide the demand in this area. We can hope for the grid can be connected to the Flores Island, but the problem is once it's connected, it will follow the ceiling price of the Flores, in which means the ceiling price will get lower than 19 cents. So we get high demand, but we get low price. This is the problem. This is the dilemma that will be faced by any turbine developer to enter the business in Indonesia. So we need to consider how we can without the battery, how we can have the systems run in these locations. And this is the conclusion. As I mentioned before, despite it seems the government seems hesitate to shift to green and renewable energy, but I think that it's reasonable because during that time we still have lack access to electricity. Some of the population doesn't have any access to the electricity. Governments need to consider that. And then undoubtedly there are many opportunities for renewable energy, including tidal energy, to enter energy business in Indonesia. And in the case of the Larantuka, it's kind of a dilemma. If you expect to have high demand, which means you have to prepare yourself to get lower price in that sense. The grid connection will be something like bring another dilemma to another level. You know, you expect the government will connect the grid from the small city of Larantuka to this big grid in Flores in order to increase your demand, but at the same time you have to prepare to have a lower tariff. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
We have some time for a couple questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. And since you are showing us Indonesia is having 70% of water surrounding, you are specifying only about the tidal energy. Can you comment on the wave energy which can be extracted in the location, or we can include that?
For Indonesian side?
Yeah, wave energy as perspective.
Wave energy?
Yeah.
Wave energy is also promising in Indonesia. So maybe it's I can show it. Okay. So I do all the source of the marine renewable energy actually in Indonesia. So it is all along this coast actually we have great potential for wave energy. However, if you follow the industry, to be honest, it's hard to think when the technology will mature actually. So many turbine developers want to enter Indonesian business as well, but most of them just still in the research level. It's not in the commercial level.
Thank you.
Very good presentation. So I just wanted to have a comment from your side. As you said that you don't want the batteries with the tidal waves, and so that we can take that. Have you this study considered about offshore wind farms instead of tidal? Maybe it is more mature area which can be directly connected with the grid as well.
Yes, we also consider the offshore wind farm at the moment. But for example, so the problem is that some of the area that potential for offshore wind farm have low CIM tariff. So that's the other issues. We already have some wind farm, but still on land. Still can connect. But I think the other problem is because the grid in the country is still not. They cannot accept the impact of the sudden change of the electric source from renewable energy. That's it. But we are working on that to make the grid can be more stable, and then maybe including the battery as you mentioned before. The main problem of having battery is actually the cost will be increased a lot. That's the only problem actually back home actually. So we are willing to put some battery system. For example, the common battery coming, so using the lithium battery. The cost you cannot put down the cost just using battery.
Just adding up another thing that because the future of the transmission line is a DC transmission, high voltage DC. So that actually would solve pretty much of the grid instability issues.
Indeed, yeah. So that's why I said that at the moment we still rely on the substations and everything in order to stabilize your connections.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about sort of to get into this market. There's ways to communicate with the government to worry about costs, and the excellent sites sort of plan that would be good. But
We do have that concern actually. So, but at the moment, I think the idea is like not put too much restriction first. So because this is still new, but we, for example, for tidal turbine, we need to consider whether it is a pathway of the migrations mammals around the country. We do have that, but it's not as long as this is we have zone, what we call it the core zone for the MPA, marine protected area.
Yeah.
As long as you avoid that, you're fine. It's easy for you to get a permit. So we need to apply a permit, environmental permit for any kind of construction. But I think for renewables, it's not that hard. It's not that the step is more direct or more easy for them.
Okay, well, that's good. I think definitely on the US side, just getting the permit to put something in the water can be an extremely costly process. So if you have sort of a route forward on your end on how that can work, that would be a way to bring initial capex down.
I don't know, based on my calculation, for example, in Larantuka, basically if you can make the turbine work at least in good efficiency, you can have around 9 cents kilowatt per kilowatt hour. That's for start. But the other problem is like as long as you can avoid to put another cost, for example, for substation, for everything, you can bring down the cost. So the only problem is when the PLN said that what happened to our grid, and you can explain to us, and then what is the grid impact of your power plant? If this one is the case is we have PPA contract with PLN will ask that. If we can convince PLN, there's nothing happened to your grid. So there is nothing that we can, because the other problem that might be important is the export stations, the exportation of your generator to the grid. Yeah, if you can bring that down, I think it's just you can reduce at least 10% of the capex cost or 20%.
No, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.